What's up, WC kids? Pastor Matt here, and we are in our series called Your Move, and it's all about God's strategy to build a winning friendship. You see, every single one of us, we all want awesome friendships in our lives. And sometimes those friendships, they take work. We've got to make sure that we're doing the right thing, right? If I ended up just every single time I saw one of my friends, I punched him in the arm, well, I have a feeling at a certain point, they wouldn't really want to be my friend anymore. You see, we want to make sure that we're doing the right things. And we're talking about board games and just games in general, all series long. And it's because we want to make the right move in a board game in order to win. Well, God is there to help us make the right move. And today, in order to be able to talk about how to be a great friend, we have to be a patient friend. You know, we've got to be able to wait for things, and we've got to be able to do things in a way that really shows that we are a patient friend. It kind of reminds me of just probably a couple months ago when I was cleaning my house with my kids, and we were cleaning rooms and the game room and all this stuff. And at the end of it, I said, guys, you did such an amazing job. You know what? We're going to go get ice cream. And they were ecstatic. They were so excited. They were like, yes, ice cream! All right. And they were running around the house so excited. They're like, I'm going to go get, my shoes on and get ready to go. And I was like, whoa, not yet though, okay? I got to finish up a couple things and then we'll go get ice cream. And so I start kind of trying to finish up some things, and probably about a couple minutes later, all of a sudden they come running downstairs and they're like, is it time to go get ice cream yet? Can we go get ice cream? Please, can we go get ice cream? And I was like, not yet. I've got to finish this up and then a couple other things. But I promise you, we will go get ice cream. Well, another 5 minutes came by and they did the exact same thing. And then another 5 minutes and they just kept on coming back and they were like, is it time for ice cream? And I was like, not yet. You see, I had to finish up some stuff, but I knew that I was going to take them to go get ice cream. But for them, they just felt like they had to wait and wait and wait and wait. And it was really, really hard because it's not fun to wait. But I do remember when I actually did then get to take them, and they were so excited. Even though they had to wait for it, they still enjoyed their ice cream. You see, being a patient friend is sometimes hard because sometimes you might have to actually wait on your friend. Maybe they're late, that day, or you said, hey, be at my house at this time, and then we're going to go do this. But they are late and they didn't show up on time, and that can be frustrating. Or maybe you end up having to, maybe they make a mistake, and you've got to be a patient friend by allowing and kind of showing forgiveness for that mistake and saying, yeah, it's okay. I know that you didn't mean to, but that can still be frustrating. But if we can show patience to our friends, that's going to help out so much in our friendships. You see, that's why our main point though today is be a patient friend. See, every single one of our friends, they want us to be a patient friend. Well, and we want to have patient friends as well. And God is the perfect example of a patient friend. Think about how patient God is with you. He's really, really patient. And it reminds me of the story that we're going to go through in the Bible. It comes from the book of Exodus and starts in chapter 14, goes all the way through chapter 24. It's a lot because it's about the Israelites. And the Israelites, when they actually got out of Egypt, they had to wait for a really, really, really long time to get to the promised land. Just watch.
This is Moses, who was an Israelite born in Egypt in a time when Israelite boys were not supposed to live.
Wait, huh?
Moses, however, grew up in the palace of the Pharaoh, the very man who was enslaving the Israelite people. When Moses grew up, he made a big mistake and fled Egypt to live with the Midianites. But God called Moses back to Egypt to deliver his people with the help of his brother Aaron. After God showed his miraculous power in Egypt, he led the Israelites through the Red Sea and towards the Promised Land. They followed God, who showed himself as a cloud by day and fire by night. As God led them through the wilderness, the Israelites became thirsty and hungry. They complained to Moses and Aaron and said, "If only we had died in Egypt." God said to Moses that he would provide for his people.
Hey!
Each morning they awoke and found manna for the day.
What's that?
And each night God gave them meat. The people were still thirsty, and they were mad at Moses, saying, "Did you bring us out here to die of thirst?"
Yeah.
So Moses cried out to God, and God told Moses to strike a rock, and water came flowing out of it for the people to drink. And so the Lord provided for his people's needs. After traveling in the desert for 3 months, they came to Mount Sinai, and God called Moses from the top of the mountain. God spoke to Moses there of the future of his people and reminded him of the miracles of the past. After 3 days, there was thunder and lightning as a thick cloud covered the mountain. The people heard a loud trumpet blast. And Moses led people to the foot of the mountain to meet with God. God told them how his people were to live and how they were to honor him and respect each other. The Israelites had seen for themselves that God had spoken to Moses from heaven. These rules that God told them are called the 10 Commandments. And the Israelites feared God, for his mighty power had brought them out of slavery and provided for them in the desert.
You see, the Israelites had to wait forever. They had to have a lot of patience, and I bet it was really, really hard. You see, the Israelites had just gotten out of Egypt, and when they got out of Egypt, they were promised by God the promised land. And I'm sure, just like when I promised my kids ice cream, they were like, "Well, I'm ready for it right now." But God said, "Just wait." And he continued to say, wait and wait and wait. But during that time, all the Israelites did is they complained. They were in the wilderness and they were complaining about not having, enough food and not having enough water, and they're tired and they just want to go to the promised land. And so because of that, God made them wait for 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years. Imagine if your parents said, "Hey, I'm going to get you some ice cream," and they didn't give it to you for 40 years. That would be crazy, right? You'd probably be really, really mad at them. And every single day you'd be like, "Is this the day we're getting ice cream?" But 40 years, they had to wait in the wilderness in order to go to the promised land. You see, it's a really tough thing to be patient. But the Israelites, they finally showed over time their patience, and they were patient and patient and patient in order to actually get to the land that God had promised them. Patience is such an important thing, and it kind of reminds me of the game we're going to be talking about this week, which is Operation. Now, if you've ever played the game Operation, then you know that you have to be really, really patient. Just watch. All right, so we were playing this game of Operation, and if you've ever played the game of Operation, you know that it requires a lot of patience. Now, this is how it works. There's these little pieces that are inside, and you've got to try to get them out with these little tweezers, but if you aren't patient and you try to go too fast, then you're gonna hit the metal part, and this happens. You see, it buzzes, which means that you lose. So I'm gonna try to get some of these pieces without making any buzzer sounds, all right? All right, here we go. Let's do it. Let's go for the horse. I'm gonna go for the horse first. Okay, well, that was a bad start. Okay, the rubber band. Oh gosh, the bucket of water right here. No, okay. The apple. Can't even. Oh gosh, this is really, really hard, but I gotta think back to what I was just saying, that I'm not supposed to rush, because honestly, all I did was just rush. You know, patience is really important in this game, which means I gotta be calm and I gotta be a little bit slower. So I'm gonna try the rubber band again, but I'm gonna try to take my time this time. You see, just like our friendships, if we take our time, then it really works. You see, patience is so important in our friendships. And when we choose to be patient with our friends, it also shows that we really care about them. You see, being a patient friend is so important. And there's gonna be times, like I said earlier, that things are gonna happen that are gonna frustrate you. And it's gonna make it hard to be patient. In fact, your friends are gonna make mistakes, or stuff's gonna happen, they're gonna be late, and you're gonna want to be impatient, and you're gonna wanna get mad at them or frustrated with them. But that's not gonna help your friendship, right? That's not gonna help your relationship. In fact, if you look at how patient God is with us, then it really gives us the perfect example in the way that we should be patient for others. You see, God shows us so much patience. Every single day we make mistakes. Every single day we choose to go the wrong way instead of following God's plan sometimes. And so it's important to remember that everyone's gonna make mistakes. Everyone's gonna do things that might frustrate us, but to remember that we can be a patient friend, because that's the example that God has showed us. And it kind of reminds me of our memory verse. It comes from Luke chapter 6, verse 31, and it says this: "Do to others what you would want them to do to you." Luke 6:31. You see, I love that verse because it really goes with the principle of that we want to treat others the way that we want to be treated. You see, it's important for us to treat our friends the same way that we want them to treat us. And every single day we have an opportunity to do that. So I want to challenge you, be a patient friend this week. Make sure that when things frustrate you or something happens, that you don't just blow up at them and get really angry or upset or frustrated, but that instead you can choose patience. Choose to be patient towards your friends. Let's all pray together. Hands out wide like this, and clap one time on three. 1, 2, 3. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for today. Thank you for the fun that we get to have here in WC Kids. And I pray for every single boy and girl that is in this room. And I just pray that this week they will choose to be patient, and specifically with their friends, that they will choose to be a patient friend. And we want to do that because ultimately you do that for us. So God, we thank you. We love you so much. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, thanks so much for joining us. See you next week. Bye.